What's up, everyone? It's Bones here. Do you like seeing face-down monsters? How about when monsters can't see you? In today's video, we'll be glancing over our new TCG exclusive archetype, Tistina. But first, if you're a fan of in-depth combo videos, new set coverage, and occasional fun stuff that we like to do on the channel, then defy darkness and click the fear of God into those thumbs up and subscribe buttons. Now, the first combo that we have here will probably be one of the more important combos the deck has, and the first card that we have here is a light Aqua level 10 called Demigod of the Tistina. It reads, if you control a Tistina card, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then you can add one Tistina spell trap from your deck to your hand. During your opponent's turn, if you control Crystal God Tistina quick effect, you can change as many monsters your opponent controls as possible to face down defense position. Then you can send all face up cards your opponent controls to the graveyard. You can only use each effect of Demigod of the Tistina once per turn. The second card that we have here is Fallen of the Tistina. It's a water level 1 Aqua, and it reads, you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard as a cost. Place one Divine Domain, and I'm not going to pronounce that last part, but it's a field spell from your deck face up in your field zone. If a face up Tistina spell trap card you control is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, while this card is in your graveyard except during the damage step, you can banish this card as a cost. Special summon one light Tistina monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard. You can only use each effect of Fallen of the Tistina once per turn. Now, we're going to continue this one by normal summoning our Fallen of the Tistina, and we can do this so that we can special summon out our Demigod, and this will give us the ability to search ourselves Embrace of the Tistina. This is a new trap card for the archetype that reads, when your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, you can target that monster as a cost, change it to face down defense position. During the end phase, you can target one face down defense position monster your opponent controls, that's also a cost. Take control of that monster. You can only use each effect of Embrace once per turn, and can only activate them while you control a Tistina monster with 3000 or more defense. And we're going to get to that pretty shortly, as we're going to use the effect of the Fallen in order to get our Divine Domain, and this is a field spell that reads, during your main phase, you can send one Tistina monster from your deck to your graveyard. Then, if your opponent controls 3 or more face-up cards, you can special summon one Crystal God Tistina from your hand or deck. You can only use this effect of Divine Domain once per turn. If this card is in your field zone, is destroyed by your opponent card effect, you can special summon one Tistina monster from your deck or graveyard. Now, we're going to continue here by using the effect of the Divine Domain, and this will be able to send off our Sentinel, and Sentinel is a wind Aqua monster level 3 that reads, if this card is in your hand or graveyard, and you control a light Tistina monster, you can special summon this card. You can target one Tistina monster or one face down card you control as a cost, destroy it, then add one Tistina card from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect of Sentinel once per turn. And we're going to do just that, as we're going to revive it in order to get itself back, then use its effect on field, as we'll be able to search ourselves our next new card. And this is another really important main deck monster along with the Demigod and the Fallen. And this is a fire level 2 Aqua that reads, if this card is in your hand, you can target one Tistina monster you control except Return of the Tistina as a cost. Special summon this card, and if you do, its level becomes that targeted monster's level. If this card is in your graveyard, you can target one Aqua Exceed monster you control, attach this card to it as material. You can only use each effect of Returned once per turn. Now we're going to use the effect of Returned, which will allow us to target the Demigod, and this will make it level 10, so that we can go into our new rank 10, Tistina, the divinity that defies darkness, and it takes 2 level 10 monsters. It reads, if this card is special summoned, you can send all face down cards your opponent controls to the graveyard. You can only use this effect of Tistina, the divinity, once per turn. Once per turn, if this card has Crystal God Tistina as material, you can detach one material from this card as a cost. It gains 2000 attack until the end of your opponent's turn. If this card you control is destroyed by an opponent's card while it has material, you can special summon one Tistina monster from your graveyard. And if you want a clear and precise answer on how to fix this archetype, in my opinion, just give the deck a rank 10 Arise Heart, and I think it would be crazy, but then we can set the Embrace of the Tistina here. So for our next combo, we'll be showing off Returned plus Demigod, and you want to make sure that you know these combos with these cards in specific for for this version of the deck, just because it is very repetitive, and if you're going to do a lot of the same stuff over and over with the cards that you get, you're kind of want to know it. But we're going to get ourselves the Divine Domain here, as we're going to activate it, and then we're going to use its effect, which will allow us to send the Sentinel, and from here we'll be able to use the Sentinel reviving itself, as we'll then be able to use its on-field effect. We'll destroy the returned because we don't want to get hit by the purely rank 2 light one, and then we're going to use the effect of returned on Demigod so that we can turn it into a level 10, and then from here we can go into any rank 10. If you don't want to go into the Tistina, then it's perfectly fine because we don't have the trap card here, so this is just a vanilla body, and then it's kind of a bad thing that Sentinel just stays here because you don't want it to get banished, but unfortunately this is kind of what we have to work with right now. That said, you can always make link plays if you don't want to go into the rank 10. I'm just deciding to play this a bit more of a standard way. Now for this next combo, we have Demigod along with play of the Tistina, which is a quick play spell. It reads, special summon one Tistina monster from your hand or graveyard in defense position, but return it to the hand during the end phase. You can only activate one play of the Tistina per turn. Then we have Divine here, which is the field spell, and we'll activate the play of the Tistina, which will bring out the Demigod on board, and this will make it so that we can activate the Divine, and then we can use its effect sending the Sentinel, and as you've seen before, we're just going to revive the Sentinel, and this will give us the ability to get the return so that we can get into the rank 10 access. And this is where I mean, if the deck had a rank 10 like Arise Heart, then it would be a better going first deck, but because the best thing that we have for the Tistina archetype is this, you're really relying on a sort of weak rank 10 pull. Now for this next combo, we have returned plus Fallen and play, and we're going to start here by activating Fallen. We won't need to use our normal summon in this particular combo, as we're going to activate the domain, send off the Demigod so that we can revive it off of play, and now we can get rank 10 access with the returned in our hand. So again, this is just one of those hands where if you have another sub-engine that takes a normal summon that we get one day or something like that, then this can become much better. But for now, it's just going to end in our rank 10, and of course, if we get an Arise Heart rank 10, then it becomes much better as well. Now for this next combo, we're going to use Breath of the Tistina along with our normal monster, and something I would like to mention in the previous combo that I think I forgot to do, and I'm sorry about that, is that the Return of the Tistina has an effect in the graveyard that if you have a rank 10 monster, you can actually attach itself from the graveyard onto it. So if you want to do that, you can do that as well, but it really does not change anything towards that combo. And Breath of the Tistina is a continuous spell that reads, during your main phase, you can normal summon one Tistina monster in addition to your normal summon set. You can only gain this effect once per turn. You can target one face-up monster you control, or if you control a light Tistina monster, you can target one face-up monster on the field instead. As a cost, change that monster to face-down defense position, then add one Tistina card from your deck to your hand, except Breath of the Tistina. You can only use this effect of Breath once per turn. Now we're going to continue this one by normal summoning or setting any card after we activate the Breath, and we have two normal summons this turn, and we're going to normal summon it as we'll use the effect of the Breath. And keep in mind that if your opponent has a face-up monster as well, you don't need to normal summon your own. You can just use theirs in order to get your search, which makes it a really strong going second card. But we're now going to be able to normal summon our Fallen, as we do have the first combo that we started with in this video off of this setup. As we'll get ourselves the Embrace, we'll then be able to get ourselves the Domain. Domain will then be able to send off the Sentinel. Sentinel will revive itself, as we'll then be able to get the search for the returned. And keep in mind that if we do get another Tistina that benefits from being destroyed, that is easier to bring out than the Crystal God, we could end up having even more combo ability with the ability to pop the extra monster off of Sentinel. So we'll then be able to get ourselves returned. We'll use the effect of return targeting Demigod. Now you can technically go for rank 3 plays, but again, we don't really have any good going first rank 3s at the moment. As we're then going to go into our Tistina rank 10, we'll set the Embrace and we'll end our turn on this. Now for the final hand, and I want to show off sort of like the best case scenario, or at least close to it, to show what this deck is meant to look like, and we're going to start with the wanted spell card in order to get our Diabellstar, and then we can go on to the main phase where we'll special summon out the Fenrir, normal summon out the Fallen, use the effect of the Demigod, as we'll then special summon it out, get ourselves the Embrace, then use the effect of the Fallen. We're going to continue making our Tistina plays as we're going to use the Domain in order to send the Sentinel. We'll then use the Sentinel to revive itself as we're going to get the search off of its effect, destroying itself, getting the return, using the return. This will give us the rank 10 access. You can make a link 2 as well if you want to go for that, but we're going to make the Tistina rank 10. We're going to use the effect of Fenrir. We're then going to be able to pitch that extra search off the Fenrir for the Diabellstar, which will give us access into the trap. And keep in mind that you can put it in defense position here as well, but we're then going to set the Embrace, and with that we can end our turn. So with all of the combos out of the way, I can finally get onto the deck profile, and the first thing that I want to do is read through all the other new cards, and Crystal God Tistina is kind of the main character of the deck, and funny enough, she's not even in the deck, and I just don't feel it's worth playing right now because a lot of the effects that have to do with her aren't consistent and they feel more like gimmicks. So this one reads, during your main phase, you can change as many monsters your opponent controls as possible to face down defense position. Then you can send all face-up cards your opponent controls to the graveyard. If this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can change as many monsters your opponent controls as possible to face down defense position. Then you can send all face-up cards your opponent controls to the graveyard. You can only use each effect of Crystal God once per turn. The next card that we have here is a level 5 Dark Aqua, Tainted of the Tistina, and this one happens to be a level 10 Light Aqua. You can tribute summon this card face up by tributing one face down monster your opponent controls. So that alone is kind of crazy, and maybe it's worth playing in the side for going second, but even then, there's not a lot to do in regards to flipping your opponent's stuff unless you're main decking stuff like Book of Moon or Book of Eclipse. This card's level becomes 10 if it was normal summon set. If this card is sent to the graveyard, except from the field, you can target one Tistina monster you control. This turn, it can make a second attack during each battle phase. Also, you can only attack with one monster. So again, this card I feel was really close to being good, but it just has a few flaws within it that didn't make the final cut for my deck, as I was really just aiming for consistency, especially since I was already playing a couple of Garnets with the 2 trap cards, and then you have the level 10s, which aren't the greatest to draw either, unless you happen to see them with any of your Tistinas. So then the next one we have is the Earth Tistina. This one is Hound of the Tistina. It's a level 4 Aqua that reads, if this card is in your hand or graveyard, if you control a light Tistina monster, a lot like Sentinel, you can special summon this card. You can only use this effect of Hound once per turn. Tistina monsters you control can attack directly while your opponent controls a face-down defense position monster. So again, another gimmick style of card, which is another reason why it didn't make the cut. Then we have Discordance of the Tistina. It's another trap card that reads, activate one of these effects. If you control a Tistina monster, banish one card from your opponent's graveyard face down. If you control a Tistina monster, special summon from the extra deck, banish all cards from your opponent's graveyard face down. I think that this is a great side deck card, something that probably should be in your side deck if you're playing this deck, but I don't know necessarily about main decking it right now. I understand that Arise Heart is away from the format, so this could be really good, but it really depends on how many traps you want to play and how much you want to center your strategy around graveyards in such a diverse format. So its next effect reads, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one Tistina monster in your graveyard as a cost, add it to your hand. You can only use one Discordance of the Tistina effect per turn, and only once that turn. Then the final new card that we have here is Signs of the Tistina, a continuous trap that reads, activate this card by targeting one face-up monster on the field. Special summon this card as an effect monster, Aqua Light, level 10/0/0. With the following effect, this card is also still a trap. During your opponent's turn, when that target leaves the field, destroy this card. During your opponent's turn, when this card leaves the field, destroy that target. So as of right now, we really don't have anything that can pop our own stuff, because as you see, Crystal God here has an ability that if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, and at that, we would also have to make it so that our opponent can pop our own stuff, and even then, I don't think that this card is just good enough to play. It's just another card that feels very blah for what the deck is trying to do. Then I also do want to go over the new level 10 draw card, and I know that this was a card that was hyped up with Tistina, and I'm not playing it because I'm only playing 3 level 10s, and I just don't think it's worth it until there is a reason to play more level 10s. Then it is a card very susceptible to hand traps, so it's not something that I would really ever recommend, I don't think. But outside of that, I also would like to talk about these options here. Book of Eclipse and Book of Moon really do synergize well with this deck. The only reason that they aren't in the main deck is because I feel like you have to play Droplet because of stuff like Nor, and then there's also the Hot Red King Calamity that you don't want to lose to. Then there's Darkhold and Raigeki. I feel like those are other cards that you want to play, especially in your side deck in this version of the deck, because you can just end up wiping your opponent's board, get yourself a lot of damage, and then just go for game that way. With Fenrir, your Tistina monsters, and the Bellstar, all that damage can actually stack up pretty quickly. And then there's the Lightning Storm and Harpy's Feather Duster for the same reason. Then, as for the main deck, the reason for the Bellstar and the Fenrir is, as said previously, it's just to give you those disruptions that the rest of the Tistina deck is kind of lacking. Then the Talents and the Thrust, I feel like they should be in here in the main deck. As long as these cards are at 3, as far as Talents goes, I feel like you should kind of play it, especially if your deck is susceptible to hand traps, which this deck kind of can be when you consider stuff like Ghost Ogre potentially hitting the field spell whenever that becomes relevant. DD Crow can be relevant, which would hit Sentinel, and we're only playing 1 copy of that, which I understand is kind of risky, and something that you can play at 2 if you would like to maybe bump down a copy of Talents to 2, and then play a total of 2-1 on the Thrust Talent stuff to make space for it. But outside of that, I really just went 3 on all of the Tistina stuff, because it's stuff that you genuinely want to see. The play of the Tistina is a card that can help you through playing into boards, where if your opponent were to potentially get something to the graveyard before you can use its effect, you can just revive it, or if you've already used its effect and want to revive it anyways to get you into link plays, you have that. Then you have this, which is just a great going second card, as you're able to change something into face down defense position and then get yourself a search, so that's just really nice. Then of course the 3 most important main deck monsters in my opinion: Demigod, as it's a free special summon if you have Returned, or the Fallen. The Fallen gets you into Domain, the Returned gets you into the rank 10 access, so absolutely no reason you shouldn't play them. And outside of that, I don't really have much else to say about the list, as it's a very simple deck in my opinion. You're really aiming for a lot of the same stuff, and it just depends on what your hand has that will really alternate what turns look like. And for the extra deck, it's one of those extra decks that is very reminiscent to many other decks that don't use their extra deck at all. We have the Underworld Goddess access code, Blackluster Soldier, Nightmare Unicorn, Hida, Mask, and SP. It's just a bunch of generic good cards that you can play because they're easy to make, and Underworld Goddess, of course, is a card that can help out problematic monsters. But then we also have the Gaia and the Big Eye, because these 2 are level 7. And then we also have the level 10 Trains, which this one can inflict damage. This one can be used for going first, which is kind of funny since it's a semi-towers sort of. But then we have our 2 Tistinas. We then have the 1 Zeus and the Typhon to really round out this extra deck. Onto the main deck, we have the 3 Prosperity, the 1 Thrust, and the 3 Talents, the 3 Droplets, the 3 Fenrir, the 3 Bellstar, the 1 Silvera, the 3 Wanted, the 3 Domain, the 1 Embrace, the 3 Breath, the 3 Play, 3 Fallen, 3 Return, 1 Sentinel, and 3 Demigod to round out the deck profile. So for everyone who's made it this far, I'd like to thank you for watching and for the 600 plus subs. I truly appreciate your support, and now that we've monetized the channel, giving us access to supers and memberships means that more awesome stuff is on the horizon. To get the channel membership, just click on the description below and there will be a link that takes you there. You'll also notice a free Discord link that I've made for us too. If you want to support me as a content creator, even if you can't donate supers or get a membership for the channel, clicking on those thumbs up and subscribe buttons help a lot too. For those wondering, I do plan on making updates to the channel as the support on the channel grows. Anyways, I hope to see you on the next one. It's Bones, signing out.